or welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we're going to be doing a recommendation video for dark romance for beginners. So I have wanted to do a video like this for a while, but it can be so difficult to decide what would be good for a beginner because what is considered dark to one person might be super tame to the other person. So there's like a very broad definition of what people would consider dark romance. So it was a little difficult to come up with this list, but I did choose a couple of series that I think would be perfect for people starting out who have maybe not read a single dark romance ever or who have only read a few and don't know where to go next. I do want to, before I get into the actual books, want to say that the easiest thing for me when going into dark romance was to get comfortable with the common tropes of dark romance in books that weren't dark. So what I mean by that is to get comfortable with taboo romance, with age gap romance, with things like that, forbidden romance, with things that are very common in dark romance, but just in a lighter setting. I think that like Sarah Kate's Praise series is perfect for that. You get like the taboo elements, you get age gap elements, you get super sexy BDSM type elements, but in a lighter setting. If you read like a series like that, it makes going into dark romance so much easier, I think, because you're already comfortable with those kind of tropes. They're not gonna like freak you out, and you just have to get more used to the like grittier, darker elements. So I would recommend reading, like, if you've literally never read a dark romance before in your life, I would recommend reading like some taboo romance just to like dip your toe in the water kind of thing, to be able to be comfortable with those kind of elements before you jump into the deep end with like those elements and like crazy dark setting. I hope that makes sense. Another author that I would recommend for that is QB Tyler. She writes super steamy things, and all of her books are like super taboo. So would recommend, just to like get yourself situated before actually going into like dark romance, I would get comfortable with those kind of tropes. So I hope that makes sense. But now I'm gonna actually talk about some dark romance books. So one series that I think is absolutely perfect is the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. Honestly, I think that Mafia is a really good way to get introduced to dark romance because you get the like darker elements from the Mafia, but they're not like, a lot of Mafia romances are not like super dark. There are some out there, but for the most part, a lot of Mafia romances are not like super dark, but they have those like darker themes to them because they're Mafia. So I feel like they're really good like starter situations. I feel like Sophie Lark in general is a really good place to start. Her book Ivan from that series, I really think is another one that is a really good intro. You get like darker themes, but they're like easier to take. So if you don't know what the Brutal Birthright series is, this is the first one. It's Brutal Prince. This one is an arranged marriage between the son of the Irish Mafia and the daughter of the Italian Mafia. They have been enemies for ages, but their fathers are like, we need to end this feud. We need to form an alliance, and the best way to form an alliance in Mafia is through marriage. And so Callum and Ada are forced to get married, but they do not take this lying down. Ada literally tries to kill him at one point, and Callum doesn't just like accept her as his wife in the beginning. And so, but they end up falling in love and having this amazing romance, and you get those like Mafia darker themes, but it's not too hard to take. The rest of the books in the series are also really amazing. This one is captor-captive, so you do get like a captor-captive trope, which I feel like is more dark romance than anything else. And that this one is the daughter of the Irish Mafia and the head of the Polish or Russian, I can't remember what he is, Mafia, and he kidnaps her because he hates her family. The third one is Savage Lover. The fourth one is Broken Vow, which is my favorite. This one is bodyguard romance. The heroine is in danger, and the hero ends up being her bodyguard, which is amazing. And then the last one is Heavy Crown, which is another enemies to lovers style one, where she's part of the Bratva and he is from the Italian Mafia. And I feel like it's just a really good starter series to get yourself into those like deeper, darker elements, but not like overly dark. Another Mafia series that I would recommend is actually a duet, and that is the Anti-Heroes and Love Duet by Gianna Darling. This is another Mafia one where you get those darker elements. The hero is this is book one, but the hero's on this book. That's why I held this one up. So the hero, Dante, is a mafia don, and the heroine, Elena, is a lawyer. And Elena really sees the world in black and white. She very much is like, you're a bad person if you do bad things. But then she meets Dante, and Dante is a mafia don who does bad things. But when they get to know each other more, she realizes that the world is not black and white. Everything is shades of gray, because Dante's actually a good guy. The things that he does don't make him a bad person. Like, he's so protective of his family and the people he cares about, and they end up falling in love, and it's really amazing. And you do get those like darker elements because of the mafia, but I really feel like this is a good intro if you want, especially to Gianna Darling. If you've never read Gianna Darling before, if you're wanting to get into Gianna Darling, I really love this series, or this duet, and I feel like her Fallen Men series is more, you get more like darker taboo elements in that series than in this series. So if you want to start with Gianna Darling, would recommend these as well. Another series that I have is the Alliance series by S.J. Tilley. This is another Mafia series. I feel like I just have Mafia series. I promise the other two series that I'm going to talk about are not Mafia. But this one is the Alliance series. I only own Dom, which is why this is the only one that I can hold up. But the first book in the series is actually Nero, and then you get King, and then Dom, and then Hans. And this is a Mafia style series where Nero and King together, they formed the Alliance, which is basically they combined a bunch of mafias together, and they are the heads of it, and they called it the Alliance. And in Nero's book, which is book one, it's a stalker romance, which obviously is a more darker trope to be included in a book. But Nero's the head of the Alliance. He's this mafia guy, and he's running from the cops one day, and he jumps into an open window that he sees to get away from the cops, and he meets the heroine. He becomes obsessed with her and starts stalking her, but it's okay because she's into it. And then in King murders somebody, and the heroine oversees him murdering somebody, and so he kidnaps her and holds her captive at his house and forces her to marry him in order to have her not testify against him. And then Dom, this one, he wants to be part of the Alliance, and so he tricks the King's sister into thinking that they chance meet and fall in love, but he actually tricks her into marrying him so that he can become part of the Alliance. And then in Hans, he is a contract killer. And so he is obsessed with his neighbor, and they fall in love, but he's obsessed with her, and he kind of stalks her as well. So you get those darker elements, but you also have really, really amazing love stories. You have super possessive heroes. This series is so good. Would definitely recommend it, and I feel like it's a really good one to get into. The next series that I have is not a Mafia series, I promise. And that's the Necessary Evil series. When you look at this series, or when I look at this series, I never think that it's dark romance, but then I really have to remind myself they're literally serial killers. They kill people for a living. And I really have to remind myself that like a lot of the things that go on in this book are really dark. But because of the way that it's written, it doesn't seem like it's dark because the characters are so lovable. So this series, if you don't know, the Necessary Evil series is about a guy named Thomas, who is this eccentric billionaire who adopts a bunch of children with psychopathic tendencies and raises them to be killers, but to only kill bad guys. And so I don't own book one because I actually don't love book one, but the whole series as a whole is really amazing. They are all MM romances, and the characters, who are the Mulvaney siblings, are all psychopaths. So you get those dark elements, you get psychopathic heroes, you get killers, they're serial killers, they kill people. You get darker elements because in each one there's kind of like this like separate suspense plot that they are going after. So in Psycho, there is a FBI agent who is killing people and they go after him. In book 1, it's a child predator. In Moonstruck, it's a person who is like stealing organs from homeless people who are living on the street. And then there's one in each book, but they're really dark themes in these books, and I always forget that they are so dark because they don't feel dark when you're reading them because the characters are so lovable. So I really do think it would be like a good place to start. This video is so chaotic. So the last one that I have that I think would be really good is the Madison Kate series by Tate James. So this series is a Why Choose romance series about a heroine named Madison Kate who is the daughter of a very prominent businessman in the town. She's grown up being very like wealthy and popular. And one night there is this big event that happens where a bunch of riots break out and thieves and all this stuff, and they call it riot night. It's this big problem night, and she ends up getting blamed for it. And so she goes away for a couple of years and comes back to start college, and she finds the 3 guys that actually are to blame for riot night, that blamed her, living in her house, and it's a forced proximity type of romance. There are so many things going on. There's like gang element in it, so it's not mafia, they're like gang elements. And there's also a person stalking her, so you get like a suspense element to it, but it's pretty dark when you are going into it, but it's so addictive and interesting that I feel like it's such a good series and you're gonna like fly through them. But the earlier books, the first book is a enemies to lovers type of story because she is so mad at them for blaming her for riot night, and she's trying to get back at them. It's literally called hate, like she does not like them at first, but they end up falling in love. It is Why Choose, so there are 3 heroes, so if that's something that you are not super comfortable with, then maybe you skip this one. But it is such a good series, so addicting, and I like literally flew through it. And I feel like it's a really good series for being like not too dark, but still has like dark elements to it. But that's the last one that I had. This is a short video, but I just wanted to give you some options. Again, I didn't want to go too in depth into some of these or give you like a really long list because again, some people might find some of these like super dark and some people might find them like not dark at all. And that was like my idea, was to find ones that were like kind of in the middle, and that I think would be, in my opinion, good ones to start with if you are trying to like dip your toe into the water of dark romance. So that is gonna be it for this video. Sorry it was a little chaotic, but like this video if you liked it, subscribe, stick around, see more content from me. Leave me a knife emoji. I think there's a knife emoji for dark romance. But that's gonna be it, so I hope you have the absolute best day. Bye.